Good afternoon, welcome back to Football League World TV. It's time for a midweek review show. I'm your host, George Dagless, and joining me this afternoon are Marcus Ally and Chris Thorpe. Marcus, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Looking forward to back-to-back appearances on FLW TV this afternoon with yours truly. Really excited to look back on what was a very interesting and exciting midweek action.
It certainly was. Chris, how are you getting on? Donning a very nice Real Madrid kit this afternoon.
Yeah, it's my late Halloween costume, mate. It comes with a Galactico, probably one that was more likely to be on the bench than the starting 11. Yeah. Looking forward to getting through a lot of games and a lot of goals as well. So, yeah, should be good.
It should be. Right, let's get straight into it. Let's talk Preston's win at Bournemouth. So the Cherries' unbeaten run in the Championship has come to an end, and it's Preston North End that ended it for them, winning 2-1 at the Vitality Stadium. Goals from Ben Whiteman and Ali McCann gave Preston the 3 points. Philip Billing did score in between them, but the team from Deepdale ended up with the 3 points yesterday evening. Marcus, what did you make of Preston's performance? I think looking at it sort of from a tactical point of view, after the game, Frankie McAvoy was very pleased with the game plan that they managed to put together, and then obviously, put out on the pitch and get it done as well. It's one thing planning, it's another thing executing. It seemed like they did a pretty good job from what you could see in the highlights last night.
Absolutely, yeah. It seemed like it was a bit more of a defence-first mentality. I saw Ben Wignall tweeting quite frequently throughout the game saying that McAvoy said he wasn't going to sit back, but it turned out that eventually that was possibly that. Obviously, he's been proven right that was the correct tactic to go with. The goals were great finishes, really. I think that you can point holes in the defending from Bournemouth, but overall, a really pleasing performance. I think Emil Rees is never struggling to get in the spotlight, is he? With a great assist going down to the byline and cutting it back for Ali McCann. And Daniel Everson, I think, also deserves a lot of credit for that outstanding save, stopping Jamal Lowe from equalising late on. So a really pleasing performance and result from Preston, that they are the side that ends the unbeaten run that seemed like it could go on for a lot longer for the Cherries. So, really impressive for them. And they'll be looking up the table after maybe looking a little bit over their shoulders before this match.
Scott Parker after the game, Chris, he said he felt like Bournemouth didn't really do enough to win, which is, a pretty honest assessment from their manager. He said that they huffed and puffed quite a lot, but, obviously didn't get those goals that they needed once they were back at 1-1 to go on and win the game. Do you think Preston have perhaps shown, a little bit of a weakness that Bournemouth have? Potentially, if you do sort of sit back a little bit more and look to hit on the break, Bournemouth are going to run out of ideas, and eventually you can obviously come away with 3 points.
Yeah, I think it's tough for any team when you're playing against a low block of not only just 5 defenders, but also sort of 2 midfielders, central midfielders as well. So you've got like a back 7 essentially that you're trying to get around. And looking at the Vitality, the pitch isn't the widest either. So if you can restrict the sort of service that Bournemouth's wide players are getting, you're sort of halfway there. And then obviously making the most of your counter attacks as they did and wide deliveries. I think it helped that Chris Methven was playing at left back, really. Obviously not a natural left back. They clearly missed Zamora, but I think long term, as long as Robbie Brady can prove his fitness, he could fill in there at that left back spot. Really good performance by Preston. I think Parker's maybe perhaps been a bit harsh on his team because of the form that they've shown so far. But the defeat was always going to come eventually. It's just a reality, really.
Our resident Preston fan at Football League, Ben Wignall's been in touch. Great win for PNE. Could be the catalyst for us to push up the table. He's been critical of McAvoy recently, but he got it on spot on last night. I think it's fair to say, Marcus, that in fairness to Ben, he's not been the only one that's been critical of Frankie McAvoy at times this season. Do you think that can be, a catalyst for him as well as a manager to try and win those discerning voices over a little bit more? And obviously, results are going to be what helps him, but a result like that will surely, they'll hope, be a springboard for him and for them as a team and club.
Absolutely. I think it's a tough act to follow for McAvoy as a bit of a rookie manager. And of course, after the service that Alex Neil provided at Deepdale, he set a really high standard, getting arguably that group of players, and definitely compared to their budget relative to the division, to overperform quite consistently in his tenure. So for McAvoy to live up to that as his first manager role was always going to be difficult. To have Preston so far away from any kind of relegation conversation after what was quite an uninspiring summer transfer window, I think deserves a lot of credit. And yeah, obviously the result in isolation really does stand out since he's been in charge. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see how they get on in the remaining weeks and months before obviously we reassess going into the new year. But it's all pointing in the right direction, and the result in midweek was huge for that.
Yeah, certainly good result for Preston. We should just mention Ali McCann. At one point, his head nearly went through the advertising hoardings near the tunnel of the Vitality, but managed to recover, get himself a goal. And as Liam says, he looks class. Did have a very good game last night at the Cherries. That result leaves Preston currently sitting in 15th in the Championship table, not too far away from the top half as well, just 3 points away from 2 points even away from getting into the top half. As for Bournemouth, they are still sitting top. But now only 2 points clear at the summit of the Championship table after that result. And that brings us nicely on to the team that are hunting them down, that's Fulham. Fulham won 7-0 away at Blackburn Rovers at Ewood Park last night in the Championship. Chris, at one point, Tony Mowbray was looking the other way. I think it was after the fourth goal, after Harry Wilson got his second. Let's talk about Blackburn first of all before we get on to how good Fulham were. It was just a real night to forget, wasn't it, for Rovers?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was always going to be a tough ask for them to get a result against Fulham, who are, arguably as strong as a Premier League side, really. And the red card completely changed the game, didn't it? It sort of opened up the space for Fulham, and the movement of their forward players is hard enough to deal with as it is, let alone when you've got 10 men. The goals just rained in really, and they couldn't really recover, despite having some decent players themselves in Dolan and Brereton Diaz and Gallagher. They just couldn't recover. It's going to be really interesting to see if they can sort of bounce back on the weekend. It's tough for any team to come back from a defeat of that magnitude, to be honest.
What did you make of the red card, Chris? I think there's no denying that it was a red card. Jan Paul Van Hecker with the WWE move, I think you could say, sort of had his, I think it's like his leg around the neck and head of Harry Wilson. What do you make of that? It's just a real rush of blood, I think it's fair to say.
It's just silly, wasn't it? I mean, you look at the area where it was, Wilson would still have quite a way to go to get to the goal. I think, he's just lost his head there. And he should have perhaps just held his ground. He didn't really have to go in hard and sort of, grapple him and throw him to the floor, if you like. So, it's just crazy, really, to be honest.
Yeah, certainly got a career in martial arts, I think, if he wants to hang up his boots anytime soon. Marcus, as for Fulham, you look at the goal scorers. Cabana got 2, Wilson got 2, Rodrigo come on and got 2, and obviously Alexander Mitrovic with his customary goal. Let's talk about the Serb. He's on 19 now for the season. He's 5 ahead of where Ivan Toney was last year, who obviously went on to score 32 last season in the Championship. Do you think Mitrovic can beat him?
Absolutely. I don't see any let up in the chances that he's going to receive. Obviously, he had to sort of make the most of his goal last night, really peeling away at the near post and heading in from a corner. But he's going to find himself in situations where he really should be scoring. Like we saw the hat-trick against West Brom was quite a simple one, as hat-tricks go. I can see chances and matches panning out the way that they did last weekend as the season progresses. And as you mentioned, with Mitrovic's head start on where Toney was this time last season, at the moment, I'd be very surprised if he doesn't beat it. He's way too good for this level. So are a lot of his supporting cast. So when you couple all of those things together, you should definitely have a player that's scoring maybe 35 plus goals in the Championship this season.
Yeah, he's certainly looking good to break that 30-goal mark. I mean, he only needs 11 more to get to 30, which, given we've only played 16 games so far this season, is some going from Alexander Mitrovic. Just looking at the table then, Fulham up to second, just 2 points now behind Bournemouth, as mentioned. As for Blackburn, their goal difference taken a little bit of a hammering, as you might expect. They're currently sitting in 12th with 23 points, so still well in touch with the playoff places, but they will need to get back to winning ways as soon as possible. Up next, our focus is going to turn to matters down near the bottom of the table. Barnsley taking on Derby. Barnsley run out 2-1 winners. Chris, I think it's fair to say this is obviously a big game for both sides, given the way it's been going for them this season. But you look at the result, particularly for Derby, given that they could have really closed the gap in on safety and started to maybe look up the table. They now look suddenly quite adrift, don't they, again?
Yeah, the hits just sort of keep on coming for them, really, whether it's on the pitch or off the pitch. Obviously, taking the league through Baldock and then conceding a goal before half-time and then a goal not long after half-time. So, yeah, just sort of double whammy, if you like, and you sort of wonder how they're going to recover and whether January will sort of be make or break for them, if they can actually get in some players. I know Rooney said that he's planning for it, but obviously it's dependent on a takeover taking place. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they can actually get some players in, because you never know, you could get in a couple of maybe experienced free agents or loanees from the Premier League who could make a hell of a difference and sort of get them away from the relegation zone. But yeah, no, terrible result for them really in the circumstances.
It certainly was. As for Barnsley, Marcus, you could say the complete opposite. A much needed result after what's been going on. Obviously, Marcus Sheff no longer at the club. They're looking for a new man. But, all they need to do is go out and try and turn things around and get results going. And that's exactly what they've done last night.
Yeah, it's a huge win and a massive couple of games with Hull coming on Saturday. But to turn it around the way they did, going 1 goal down, the confidence would have been fragile as it is. It's definitely very encouraging from a Barnsley point of view. Aaron Leia-Iseka's now scored 3 goals in 3. He's starting to really get to grips with the Championship, signing from Toulouse in the summer. So yeah, it's looking good at Barnsley. Obviously still a lot to do, but I think with just Peterborough and Cardiff above them before the sort of cluster of teams quite close together, I think they'll definitely fancy their chances of getting out of it. As we've just had a comment that I've just seen come in, Mads Andersen has been huge at the back. He came in for his first start of the season at Bristol City on Saturday. Bristol City obviously getting the 2-1 win, but Barnsley were unfortunate not to at least take a point from that match. Anderson played every single minute of league action last season, including the playoffs, except for one match when he was sent off. But then that decision got overturned. So he literally started all 46 games, 2 in the playoff semi-finals. This just shows how pivotal he was. And now he's come back into the centre of defence and they look a much better side. So it is finally looking up at Oakwell after, of course, the Marcus Sheff appointment didn't work out.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that Sheff experiment unfortunately did not pay off. But Barnsley will be looking up now, finally got a little bit green in their form table after plenty of red. They're currently sitting 22nd in the Championship table, just a 1 point from safety after Cardiff's loss to QPR. As for Derby, sitting bottom of the league as it stands, just the 5 points. Obviously had that points deduction, but they need to be making ground sooner rather than later. Now, let's move away from that one. Let's talk Coventry against Swansea next. Early goals from Jamie Patterson and Joel Pirro gave Swansea an unassailable lead, if you like, at 2-0. Carl McVadgen did get Coventry back into it at 2-1, but it wasn't enough for them to get any result or any points from the game. Chris, what do you make of this one? Pirro and Patterson, they're both in decent form at the moment, aren't they? And Swansea are one of those teams where you perhaps at the start of the season didn't expect them to be involved really in the playoffs, maybe because Steve Cooper's obviously left the club and there seemed to be a lot of changes. But Russell Martin has very much got his feet under the table now, and as Mark Robbins said, he's a very good manager, and his style is going to win football matches and prove very popular. It looks like Swansea are building a lot of momentum at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I have to say, I'll be the first to admit that I've actually feared for Martin at the start of the season after some poor results, and it looked like them playing out from the back wasn't going to work. But then they changed the goalkeeper, sort of Brian Hamer in as the number one, and it sort of helped them to sort of transition into the middle thirds from the defence really well. But yeah, as you quite rightly mentioned, the Pirro and Patterson show sort of continues. I think it's just looking at my notes, it's 16 goals and 7 assists. So that's pretty much, I think it's over half their goals they've scored in the Championship this season have come from them two. So it's so crucial, and obviously forming that sort of partnership, if you like, up front. Whether it's one of them scoring and the other assisting, it always seems to pay off for them. As for Coventry, a few inconsistencies recently, but they're still in 4th place, so they've got every chance of perhaps being in the playoff conversation come May next year. So it'll be interesting to see where these two sides go in relation to the top 6, to be honest.
Yeah, you do certainly feel as though that result it could be one later on in the season that could be important when it comes to deciding those top 6 spots. Marcus, just from a Coventry perspective, as Chris mentioned, they've been a little bit inconsistent in recent weeks. What do you think they'll make of this result early this week against Swansea? Do you think they'll be worried too much? Mark Robbins, as I've mentioned, he seemed sort of held his hands up really and said, "Look, we've been beaten by the better team this evening," and he's very impressed with what Swansea did. Do you think they'll be too disheartened?
No, not at all. I think they will continue to show a lot of respect for Swansea after losing the matches they did before it. Robbins has been quite public about saying, let's get to 50 points and then see where we are. A mid-table, a top half finish at the start of the season would have been very encouraging from a Coventry City point of view. I think they can hang around the top 6 a bit longer, but losses to teams on the up, definitely like Swansea, won't be too concerning. A bit disappointed to lose their unbeaten home record. But no, I'm not too worried about Coventry. I think, I trust in Mark Robbins that he'll be able to relay this defeat to the players in the right way. I think we should see a reaction at the weekend.
Yeah, we will see how Coventry get on. Harry's got in touch on YouTube. Do keep your comments in wherever you've been watching the games the last couple of days. Very impressed with Joel Perreault, as we are as well. It looks like a real steal for Swansea at the moment. I think they'll be eager to make a few replicas of that in the January window. Right, let's move away from Swansea's win at Coventry. Let's move to one more Championship game, and that's Luton's win over Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough 1-0 up, but in a 5-minute blitz, Luton ended up leading 3-1 in the second half. Chris, it was another impressive performance from the Hatters. Do you think they're another side that have to be considered playoff contenders at the moment?
Yeah, for sure. They're just like Swansea, really. They've got 2 players who always seem to come up with the goods in Harry Cornick and Adebayo. Adebayo, sorry. Just checking I got that right. Those 2 seem to come up with the goods quite a lot. Considering they come from the lower leagues, they're doing so well to sort of firstly adapt to the Championship and be consistent. And I think Nathan Jones deserves massive credit. Obviously, bit of a blotch on his copybook, his time at Stoke, but he's gone back into Luton, obviously a place he knows so well. And he's really sort of helped to develop the team there. And obviously, I think Luke Berry is another player who deserves some credit too for the way he's adapted to the level. So, they should definitely be taken seriously. At the moment, I feel like, the table's sort of up for grabs for everyone at the moment, just because of the sort of inconsistencies and results that we see overall. But if they can keep on, consistently picking up wins here and there and keeping their home form strong, I think they definitely could be in contention for sure.
As for Middlesbrough, Marcus, they were, doing really well not too long ago. Now they've lost 2 games on the bounce. It seems to me like they build a bit of momentum and then something happens and it sort of just knocks them back again. What do you think they're going to make of this result and the way they were leading, obviously 1-0 up, and then they've kind of let the game get away from them inside 5 minutes in the second half?
Yeah, Luton have been really strong at home this season in particular. So I don't think losing the game as a whole would have been too much of a disappointing result. I think Warnock was kind of setting them up in the media to expect something along those lines. But in the fashion of the quick turnaround from the Hatters was quite concerning. Overall, I am quite worried about Middlesbrough at the moment, to be honest. I think they had 3 2-0 wins over Barnsley, Cardiff and Peterborough United in succession that brought them up the table compared to sort of being lowly, sort of midway in the bottom half. I think that's kind of inflated their position and relieved a lot of the pressure off of the shoulders of Neil Warnock in the short term. I think that's definitely coming back now. It was a disappointing result against Birmingham before this one. Warnock dropped Joe Lumley, brought in Luke Daniels. Didn't seem to make too much difference. But Luton are a good side. I don't think you can take that away from them. Paddy Ruddock and Panzu was excellent in this match. An incredible bit of business to keep him at the club this summer after he was out of contract. I think Luton will probably beat much better teams than Middlesbrough at Kenilworth Road this season. But overall, I am worried about Borough and whether we'll have the pleasure of talking about Neil Warnock as we move towards 2022.
Yeah, we will see if he decides for one more job or one more year. See what he decides towards the end of this season. Ian's got in touch. Borough should have had a penalty when they were 1-0 up, in his opinion. Excuse me for that cough there. And Harry's got in touch as well. Says Warnock wasn't happy as per usual after the game. I think that's probably an understatement for someone like Neil Warnock. But fair play to him. 1,602 games now as a manager. He's really racking up those matches. And as Marcus said, we'll have to see if he's around for next season as well. Chris, I just want to touch on the opposition manager before we move away from the Championship. Nathan Jones at Luton. What a job he's doing as well. Obviously, he went away to Stoke, got a little bit of stick from some Luton fans. So obviously, when he come back, he had to win over sections of the Hatter support. But I think it's probably fair to say that he's definitely done that now.
Yeah, definitely. Luton are in a really good place as a club overall. There's been talk over the new stadium. It looks like it's progressing now with the plans and stuff like that. They only look like they're going to go from strength to strength, to be honest. And keeping Nathan Jones at the heart of that is clearly something that they're intending to do. So he's got January coming up as well. Always an opportunity for managers to strengthen their squads. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets the backing from the club after some good performances so far this season. So good times for the Hatters for sure.
Yeah, certainly looking good for Luton at the moment. They currently sit 8th in the Championship table. Middlesbrough down to 14th on the back of that loss. Right, that's enough Championship talk. We're going to drop into League One to talk a couple of games from the third tier action earlier this week. And we're going to start with Sheffield Wednesday's 3-0 win over Sunderland. Marcus Lee Gregory took to Instagram after the game and said that's more like it from Wednesday. He says they're building now. Do you think they are, or do you think it's another, perhaps a false dawn at Hillsborough? There's a lot of draws before this win. They'll now be hoping that they can go on a run of victories, won't they?
Yeah, absolutely. They've been on the right side of a lot of those draws, though, leading into this match. I think it must be 5 or 6 games unbeaten now in all competitions, and they were in winning positions in those draws. So they weren't even sort of in danger of losing this sort of unbeaten streak. Lee Gregory is a huge player, as you mentioned, at the top of the pitch. I think 3-0 flattered them, but it's definitely, I don't believe that it is a full storm for Wednesday. I think they have been shoring up in defence, and Darren Moore's started to get the players quite a lot who came in the summer to build relationships on the pitch. Obviously, it's going to be really eye-catching whenever you beat a Sunderland team in League One. But I'm not 100% sure what Lee Johnson's going to go to in reaction to this match. But in terms of Wednesday, they'll be looking up. They will have at least playoff aspirations this season. I think even at the start of the season, the board would have been hoping that they could compete for automatics. So Darren Moore will be relieved to get the result. Another plus for the Owls, of course, was Theo Corbianu in this match with a goal and an assist. The 19-year-old on loan from Wolverhampton Wanderers has struggled to really hit the ground running in League One, but this was a real sort of coming-of-age display, and the Wednesday fans will hope he can really kick on from that going into some cup action, and then, moving across, seeing if they can really crack that top 6 in the next few months.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem for Wednesday was turn those draws into wins, as you rightly say there, Marcus. Currently seen 8th in the table now, just a couple of points off the top 6. So I certainly feel that they can break that particular nut in the weeks to come. Chris, let's just come to Sunderland. Obviously, it's now 3 losses on the bounce in the league. Lee Johnson, when he was at Bristol City, the nickname of Streaky Lee, where the Robins would go on serious runs of good form and then serious runs of bad form. Do you think there's an element of that Sunderland right now?
Yeah, definitely. I think Ian in the comments has hit it on the head. They are a bit of a mess at the moment. Some of the results they've had recently against their fellow promotion contenders, if you like, 4-0 against Portsmouth, 5-1 against Rotherham, and then obviously 3-0 against Wednesday recently. It's not looking good for Streaky Lee. But at the end of the day, they've got the quality to turn things around, and they'll be looking at this weekend and thinking, can we get a good result in the FA Cup to increase our confidence a bit more. I wouldn't write them off just yet, but it is a bit concerning that they're losing in this manner to teams that will be competing directly with them for those promotion spots.
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit of a mystery with Sunderland at the moment. Liam says he doesn't get what's going wrong at the Black Cats at the moment. He says the starting 11 hasn't been affected by injuries or anything lately. One theory I've got, Marcus, and it could be completely out of the blue, but do you think maybe they just got a little bit distracted by their League Cup run? I mean, they're still in. They're in the quarterfinals now, heading to Arsenal in December. Could it potentially be that?
Interesting, yeah, maybe a bit more miles in their legs. I know Johnson has been looking to stick with a very familiar 11 as much as he can this season, so maybe that could play into it a bit. I think mainly the issues have come defensively. Young Callum Doyle on loan from Manchester City Sunderland have conceded a lot from just crosses into the box. I think maybe all 3 goals against Sheffield Wednesday were that. 4 out of 5 were from crosses against Rotherham. I think maybe Lee Johnson would be well advised to bring Bailey Wright back in, a bit of experience, definitely a leader to put into the back four and more of a physical presence if that is where they're struggling. At the top of the pitch, I don't have too many concerns despite not troubling the scorers. They created 1.6 expected goals at Hillsborough and had 10 men at the New York Stadium against Rotherham. So that game was affected by the red card quite a lot, I think you could say. So I'd definitely be looking at the defensive contingent as for where Sunderland's problems lie at the moment.
Okay, we will see how they bounce back in the matches ahead. Currently sitting 5th in League One, so no time to panic just yet, but they want to get back to winning ways as soon as possible. 2 more games to talk about on the midweek review. We'd had only planned for 1 more, but given we got Marcus sitting here as a Charlton fan and Ian is getting in touch as a Rotherham fan, I think it would make sense for us to talk about the 1-1 draw at the Valley as well. Let's bring in Ian's comment first of all from YouTube. Happy with a point at Charlton in the end. Addicts have improved significantly under Johnny Jackson, and with the squad they have, they won't be in the bottom half for long. I think that kind of echoes what Paul Warne said as well after the game, doesn't it, Marcus? He said by the end of the season, that could well look like a very good point away at a team that you would expect to be near the the top six places towards the end of the season. What did you make of it from a Charlton perspective?
I thought it was a really good game. First of all, to be honest, I was so impressed with the performance against Rotherham. I'll go as far as saying it was the best under Johnny Jackson so far. I think it was better than the 4-0 win over Doncaster. Certainly, I didn't see the 90 minutes against Sunderland, but in terms of the Doncaster match, they were so poor. Charlton really were comfortable from early on and then were able to sort of pad out the scoreline in the second half with Donny looking quite despondent. Rotherham were at it from minute 0 to 90 and Charlton really had to defend well, particularly in the first half. It's such a tricky style that the Millers play, all action, really high-octane attacking football, getting loads of balls into the box. Credit to Charlton, they arguably created the better chances in both halves. Connor Washington missing a couple of decent headed opportunities in the first half and then obviously making up for it late on. But yeah, it's just a great feeling, really. It feels like there's so much more endeavour and desire on the pitch from the Addicts. Jackson, they're clearly buying into what Johnny Jackson is trying to get across to the players more than they were under Nigel Adkins. I agree with Ian, it's not a squad that should be in the league position. It is obviously took a little bit longer to assemble a squad of that quality going into sort of transfer deadline day, getting some marquee signings over the line, but it's definitely not a squad that should be in the bottom half, and I hope he's right that we're not dwindling in the bottom half for too much longer, but there is still a long way to go on that front.
Yeah, still got a few points to make up to get into the top 12, but currently sitting 18th Charlton with this little unbeaten run they've got going under Johnny Jackson. As for Rotherham, sitting 3rd, looking strong as they so often do in League One. They'll be looking to seal another promotion back to the Championship this season. And one final game to talk about, and that's Ipswich's 4-1 win away at Wycombe Wanderers. Gareth Ainsworth said post-match that Ipswich will be up there without a doubt in terms of promotion race. They're a good side. It looks like Ipswich have finally clicked, doesn't it? The last few weeks they've looked a lot better compared to the start of this season, and obviously they've taken away a 100% winning record at home from Wycombe there by winning quite emphatically. How impressed are you by that result from an Ipswich point of view?
Very impressed, but like most people before the start of the season, after seeing their transfer business, I kind of expected Ipswich to be up there. You know, you can't have that many quality sort of players who could arguably play in the Championship, and not be up there for the promotion places. So it's probably about time and perhaps a long time coming, because if their former trend had continued for a bit longer, Paul Cook could have perhaps been out of a job. So it's come at the right time for him, and he's perhaps proven a lot of doubters wrong. But yeah, no, really impressive. They've got so many forward options, which I think helps. You know, Joe Piggott's being kept on the bench, scored 22 goals for Wimbledon last season. So if you can keep him out of the team, then you must have a good attack hit from the start. So yeah, fair play to them. They're proving a lot of people wrong at the moment.
Yeah, certainly looking a little bit better at Portman Road at the moment for Ipswich. They're currently sitting 9th now in the League One table, just 4 points off of the top 6. As for Wycombe, currently sitting 4th. similar for Rotherham, actually. A team that's normally very competitive towards the top end of League One, or at least in Wycombe's case have been in the last few years. They'll be looking to get back to the Championship in the very near future. That brings the midweek review on Football League World TV to a close this afternoon. Marcus and Chris, thank you very much for joining me. Coming up on Football League World TV, we got the London show. I'll be back for that one at 4 p.m. Marcus will be with me as well, so we're earning our wages this afternoon. People at home, thank you for your comments. It's been really appreciated. Thanks for joining in. Hopefully you've enjoyed what we've had to say, and please subscribe to Football League World on TV, Football League World TV on YouTube if you can. That would be greatly appreciated. But from us here for now, it's bye for now.